wearing a key on Shabbos. What's the logic of the Shabbos belt? Ellie?
It's part of a bag.
That is part of your clothes.
So, in other words, the key is like holding it together. Yes?
Yeah.
And you're wearing it as a belt. Someone else, I actually gave this lesson recently to another group of Talmidim. What about wearing a Shabbos belt very loose over your body? I'm not very happy about that, actually. Because if it's not serving as a belt, then it's not, there's no heter for it. The heter is only, did you know that the Rebbe used to wear a Shabbos belt? In the earlier years, the Rebbe did not wear a Shabbos belt, and he hid his keys behind one of the piles of Sforim in the second room, in the Cheder Sheni upstairs. But then he noticed that one Bach had an enormous iskashrus on Friday night, and he was desperate to be inside the Rebbe's room for iskashrus, and the Rebbe noticed that he had to deal with that, and so from then on he wasn't able to rely on hiding the key, and so he had to
inside 770. Why couldn't he just keep the key in his pocket?
No, in 770 he would, but he had kept the key in his pocket.
So what? He would hide it outside his house?
Friday night that every night that I went home to President Street.
Oh.
Yeah. So I remember that when the Rebbe went down to davening, he locked his room. When he came up, he had the key in his pocket, pulled it out from his pocket, and opened the door. Yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah. Okay. So some in Crown Heights, a lot of people make the keys with two holes to kind of it should be more of a link in a belt. But I was told that the Rebbe wasn't makbid on that. We wear it as the main part is that the belt, the key, serves like as a link in a chain, and that's the heter for it. Right. Now, do you know there's a meaning of some people when it's raining, they wear on their head an advertisement for Sainsbury's? You ever seen that in Stanford Hill? Or well, it could be for
what, like a carrier bag.
Yeah. So, go on. Are you allowed to do that on Shabbos?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Would you be? And when I bought my hat, I bought one from Stanford Hill, and they gave me as a present like a proper plastic covering. Is that the same as a bag?
All right. So now let's explain. Is it one of the little bit got a bit of elastic around the edge? Yeah. Where do you get this? In London?
I got one from London, from Keter, and one from America. Yeah.
He never gave me one. Okay, never mind. Okay, I'll take it out with him next time. Okay. Right. So the principle here is you're allowed to wear a garment, but you're not allowed to wear a garment to protect a garment. You can wear garments to protect yourself, but to wear a garment to protect a garment is not okay.
But you're protecting yourself from not wasting another 200 pounds.
And you might even protecting your heart.
How is the Reshvolka mutter?
Yes.
How are you allowed to wear a Reshvolka, which is meant to protect like clothes underneath?
Right. So you're allowed to wear clothing, but something which is not a plastic bag is not clothing is either to keep you covered or to keep you warm. Plastic bags do neither. They just make you, I guess, more interesting to the passers-by. But at any rate, to wear plastic just to protect your hat is not okay. For that matter, ladies' rain hats would be the same thing. And these rain bonnets. The thing is, with a lady, usually, if it's a lot of rain, the rain would get through the sheitel and it would be making ruin the sheitel. Never mind. It would get through to the scalp also. Therefore, a woman would be wearing, and also they usually make them in a way that the front of it comes and covers the forehead also, not just the sheitel. So that's how the way we generally take the view, that you wouldn't be allowed to wear a plastic just to protect your hat.
If it's like one that goes over and it added like 2 strings and then you tie it like it's another hat on top, is that okay?
If it's protecting you. If it's protecting yourself, not just the hat. Yeah. So you've got now, I mean, you know, nowadays, many people now, when it's rainy weather, all of a sudden they wear these black, shapeless plastic coats, which have got built-in hoods. So they kind of built-in hood, they protect the strimals and all that. That's okay because it's all one item. But if it would just to wear a plastic strimal cover or a hat cover, that would be problematic. Actually, not everyone agreed to this, and there was. Have you ever heard of the Satmarov?
Yeah.
The Bioilish. And he had a nephew who was also a Rebbe. His name was the Kloisenberger Rov. And there was a machlokes between, one of many machlokes, between the uncle and the nephew. And one of the machlokes was whether you're allowed to wear such a plastic or not. Satmarov was Machmir, and the Kloisenberger was Mekel. But the general view, which I was Kabul from Zalman Shimon, etc., is that we don't wear those things on Shabbos. So when I think I was in conversation with Zalman Shimon, I say Zalman Shimon, you know what I'm talking about. Zalman Shimon Dvorkin was the Rav in 770 for many years. Passed away Tafshim Mem Hey. So what about galoshes? Raise a thumbs up if you know what galoshes are. Okay, so galoshes, are you allowed to wear them on Shabbos? So there he said that would be okay, because if you don't, let's say if it's slushy weather, so then not only are you protecting your shoes from getting ruined, you're protecting yourself from the snow seeping through your shoes, etc. But so it's protecting you, not only your shoes. But to wear a beged to protect the beged is not okay. Okay, let's go on to another point. Carrying, I just actually learned this in Gemara Shabbos. Shmuel, hi. Are you allowed to carry? Well, if you carry, that's not allowed to. You're not allowed to be Rabbanan, but to carry a living person, a toddler or an adult, to carry them through the street on Shabbos from the Shusha Yochanan to Shusha Rabim, that's an Isur de Rabbanan. The reason for this is because we use a principle. I'm going to say the words in Hebrew. Chai noisei es atzmoi. A living being. Oh, Zalman, nice to see you. A living being bears his own weight. What this means is, Zalmi, if I would be giving you a piggyback or a shoulder ride, so you would be kind of cooperating. So then it's not only me carrying you, you're carrying yourself also. So I'm not carrying you 100% because the passenger is also carrying himself a little bit. Does that make sense?
That's why a dead person weighs a lot more than a living person.
That's right, because they're not cooperating. Yeah. Whereas a living person, if they're not cooperating, it makes it even harder. But if they are cooperating, then they are kind of contributing to the malacha. So okay. So carrying, the point of the halacha is for carrying a living person who's able to walk on their own. For me to carry them is a isur de rabbanan. It's also de rabbanan. Yeah. So to carry a child through the street on Shabbos is isur de rabbanan. Fine. Now let's take another question. I've got here. What do I have in my hand?
A cup.
Empty or full?
A bit inside.
Now, if I would carry an empty cup on the street on Shabbos, I'd be chayiv for carrying the cup. But if the cup has got a bit of mashke, and the mashke is pochas mikashir, I don't remember what the shear of mashke is, yeah? That you have to ask your mashpia. If the mashke is a pochas mikashir, so I'm potter for the mashke, so I'm potter also for the keli too. Because the keli is toffel to the mashke. In the middle of teaching, maybe it's 3 or 4:45. So, because the keli is toffel to the mashke, and therefore I'm potter not only for the mashke because it's potter mikashir, I'm potter also for the keli. Now let me say, I carry this. Let's say this toddler is a 2-year-old, and I carry him in the street. Am I potter? What did we just say?
If you gave him to drink mashke, you're potter, no?
No, then you get into big trouble. So if I carry this toddler, I'm potter. Wait a minute. If the toddler is wearing a jacket, shirt, why are you not chayiv for carrying the shirt?
Because
Battle.
it's tuffle to him.
Battle to
Oh,
him.
because a shirt is tough. Very good, very good. We're getting somewhere. Now,
Is there a difference
now
between
here goes, Charlie, yes?
is there a difference between a child that can walk and a child that can't walk?
Yes, yes. So when we're talking about carrying and using this het of chaynes atzmai, we're talking about a toddler who can walk or a frail person who can walk a bit. They're not mamish wheelchair bound. If they are unable to walk at all, it makes them to carry that person would be awesome in Hatayr. True. Yes. Thank you. So now here, what I'm building towards is when you have wheeling let's say you have a person who's frail and they want to go to shul on Shabbos and they can't walk the distance. Wheeling them, for me to wheel such a person on a wheelchair, so I'm carrying a person. Am I chayav for carrying the person? No, because Chayna says that's me. Am I chayav for the wheelchair? Hello? Yes, no?
You get a guy to do it.
Before you get into, I'm asking, am I chayiv if I for the wheelchair? If I said with this glass, I'm potter, because the main thing is the mashke. And the glass is tough. So the wheelchair is tough to the passenger. If I'm potter for the passenger, I'm potter for the wheelchair. Good? So wheeling a person who can walk, to wheel them in the street on Shabbos, is a isur de rabbonon. Good? Now, when we have a rule, who said about asking a goy? Mendel, yeah? Yeah. We have a rule, one of the very useful rules. We know that there's isur of amiru l'nochri. To ask a goy to do a malacha for us of Shabbos is forbidden. That's one of the names for isur rabbonon is the word shvus. Familiar? You ever heard the word shvus before? Did I talk about it in one of the previous lessons? So we have a word.
I learned it.
Okay.
I learned about it.
Okay. Shvus, this shvus, thank you, Noam. Shvus, the shvus, letzoyrich mitzvah is allowed. So what we have here is, for me to wheel the person in the street is Isur Rabbanon. To ask a guy to do it, from here is Isur Rabbanon. That becomes shvus the shvus. If it's a tzorich mitzvah, that's okay. All right. So then we have such a situation where a person is frail and they want to go to shul, they can't manage, and ask a guy to wheel them. That is acceptable halacha on the principle of shvus the shvus the tzorich mitzvah. Okay. Next. What about Shaul Elisha? Yeah, is that the full name? Shaul, is it Shaul Elisha?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember you. He
Yeah.
was a fun guy.
I heard.
Yeah. Elisha Bell. Yeah. I remember him in Westcliff when I was there about 50 years ago. And we were on holiday in Westcliff and he would see us on the promenade. And he said, the hospital at Oldbury, whatever. Yeah. Now, what about wheeling a child who is unable to walk? Let's say a baby or for 4 months, 6 months. To wheel such a child would be an Yisum in HaTorah. So to ask a goy would not be acceptable, because there's no shvuz l'shvuz. There's only one Isur. Isur Amir, you're asking a goy to do Isur Midarais. So this is a very practical thing. Very often people, especially on shlichus, they want to go to a suda somewhere else and they want to bring the baby with them. Can they ask a goy to wheel the baby? So generally the advice is no. If there's no eruv, the advice is no. Because the baby can't walk. So to ask a goy, you're asking a goy to do it. So Torah, you can't do that.
What about
Sometimes
through a hint?
It doesn't really help. The hint, this whole hint stuff, doesn't really help. If they're doing it for you, it's not okay. Now, what I do tell them is the following. Let's say there's a family Sheva Barachos. There's a big family and they are staying not in one place. And so there's a young couple who have a small child and the mother and father want to be by the Sheva Brachas, but they can't leave the child alone in where they're staying. Why tell them like this? Don't ask a goy to wheel the child. That's not okay. It's not shvuz the shvuz. What I tell you is, you hire Christina. Yeah, Christina is the local goyish babysitter. You can hire Christina. You hire her for the whole evening, from let's say from 7 till 10 p.m. You tell Christina, my liebelige Christina, yeah. What you can do is, I'm telling you that you're hired and you'll be in charge of my baby for these 3 hours. I'm going to be down the road, and this is exactly the address. There's nice food there, and you're welcome if you want to come and join us for supper. But if you want to stay home and play on your mobile and talk to the rest of, WhatsApp to the rest of the world, you can do that. You don't have to come. Yeah. So if Christina does come with the baby to the Kiddush or to the Sheva Brachas, she's doing it because she wants to do it for herself, because she doesn't want to be cooped up in the flat, in the hotel room. All right. So that's when the goy is doing it genuinely for themselves, that's legitimate. But if they're doing it for you, Christina, we would love you, but we can't tell you. But please understand that we can't tell you, but we love you to be there. That doesn't work. Yeah. If she's genuinely coming for her own indulgence, then that would be okay. So here we've made a difference between a wheelchair for a person who is mobile to a degree, whether elderly or young, a toddler. That's more lenient. When the passenger is totally incapable of getting around on their own, that's a different story. Now, I'm not sure what the halacha is. Let's say if there's someone who's got no legs, yeah, but they are able to. Some of these people who, for whatever reason, they lost their legs, but they are very good in wheeling themselves. They can wheel they've got on the sides of their wheelchair, they've got like a rail which they can rotate it. I think they would be allowed to get around on their wheelchairs on Shabbos, because that's like their legs. Yeah. It's rolling. It's rolling.
Yeah.
What's the guidelines for when a person is allowed to use a walking stick on Shabbos in the street?
If he needs it, he can use it.
Yes. How do you define needs?
If it's like part of him, like if he can't walk without it. No?
Okay. All right. So it's a bit of I don't know, did we go through this last week?
I don't think so.
No. All right. So it's actually a difficult one. The rule is the following. If the person is so dependent on the stick that even in the house where the floor is level, they are still holding on to the furniture. They're holding on to, If they're continually holding on to something, then they are allowed to go out in the street with a stick. There is a madrege less extreme, where in the house they don't need a stick because the floors are level. When walking the street, sometimes there'll be something which is irregular in the surface, and they will lose their balance. So they take the stick with them in case they lose their balance. You got it? See the difference? So it's not that they need the stick the whole time. They just need it in case they lose their balance. Such a level shouldn't be using a stick on Shabbos. Now that's a difficult one, because there are people who are in this middle level. They are mobile to a degree, and what I'm telling you is they shouldn't be using a stick on Shabbos, which is a difficult one. A few years ago, it was a Friday, and a lady called me up, and she says that because of the snow, normally she doesn't use a stick, but because it's snowing, she wants to be able to use a stick on Shabbos, in case she slips. So what's the answer?
You can't use it.
Right. Of course, I have every sympathy. I don't want, this old lady to slip up on the street on Shabbos, yeah? But I said that in that case, and that's the case, either you stay home or you get someone else to accompany you and to hold you by your arm, and you stay safe. Yeah, fine. Here's a very interesting one. Do you know what a blind dog is? Yeah? Anyone know what a blind dog is?
Yeah,
Maybe
Dog that
what's
basically.
a blind dog?
have.
Pardon?
It's a dog that blind people have. So
Okay,
he's blind.
yeah. Now, Yosef, you've been so many years in England. In America, they call them seeing dogs. If you have a blind dog, it's useless. In England, we call them guide dogs, yeah? At any rate, have you ever seen those dogs up close?
I've
Yeah.
seen on the train a few times.
Right. Have you noticed they've got like a whole big frame?
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's Isur to have an animal work for you on Shabbos. So an animal is not allowed to carry something for you on Shabbos. So when you've got a dog and it's got a collar, it's got a leash, and is your dog allowed to wear the collar in the street on Shabbos? And the answer is the collar is there to protect the dog. That's what I say. All right, that's the heter. But with the guide dogs, it's got this whole harness. Who is the harness for? For the dog or for me? Not for me, but for Hashem, I don't need it.
For the person.
Oh, so the dog is carrying something for him. That means it becomes a serious problem whether he's allowed to use this thing on Shabbos, because it is Isur of making the dog work for him. The dog is carrying something for him on Shabbos.
What about a stick, a guide stick?
A guide stick, we went through this. If he is so dependent that he even in the house uses the stick, then that would be okay.
The ones for when people
Why would
run.
he be allowed to carry it?
One thing at a time. Who just asked? Who just asked why? Was that Levi Potash?
Lady, yeah.
What's the question again?
Why is he allowed to carry the stick?
Who, the
Just
guy,
because
the
he's
blind
dependent.
person?
Yeah. No, not a regular person who, like an old person. What?
It's like it's like his leg. Since he's so dependent on it, it becomes like his leg.
Okay.
Right. Here's another very interesting question. Are you allowed to wear a badge? What is a badge? So let's say if I would work in a hospital, I would have my name, so, etc. And I'd have or you see a policeman, they got this, yeah. I don't know in America for sure. They have these little ID tag. So are you allowed to wear those on Shabbos?
I think if you're like Hatzalah member and you're like officially like have a walkie-talkie and officially like taking calls on Shabbos, then you should be allowed to, because you'll need to show the person ID.
If it's a tag that you are, I don't know. It's a tag that let's say you're a hospital worker, working, I don't know, Boots Chemist, or they say in Grodzinski's. They work in Grodzinski's and they have a tag with their name. So such a tag may be worn on Shabbos. Of course, they're not working Grodzinski's on Shabbos. I understand that. But the question is wearing an identity tag or allowed on Shabbos?
Not if you need it.
Listen, everyone needs breakfast. We don't cook breakfast on Shabbos, yeah? Need is not every need becomes a following this. If it is a badge just for identity, that's not okay. If it's a badge, surely I can see your finger. If it's a badge for covered, then you are allowed to. So you've got, let's say, all veterans, these badges, the emblems, these medals. So he comes to shul and everyone stands up for them, yeah, because he was in the Second World War and he blew up some German tanks, whatever, maybe, yeah. So that kind of covered tag, adding to his person, so to speak. So we have the difference between a tag which is like jewelry, which is making you projecting yourself better, that's allowed. If it's a tag which is just to identify you, then you have. So here, I don't think it's funny. There are people who wear tags around their necks in case, chas v'sholom, they lose consciousness and it should have their vital information. You know of that, yeah? Now, are they allowed to wear those in the street on Shabbos?
Yeah.
Well,
I know
yes,
someone.
because of Vikur Nefesh. Is that right, Ellie?
No, I know someone who wears one. They have it on like a
Chain.
necklace. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. But so you're just saying because you know someone, therefore it must be okay.
My neighbor used to have it, because she collapsed more than once.
Right.
So they gave it to her just in case if she had again, it'll be quicker for her.
Yeah, but
I
also if it's on a necklace, then it's in general it's probably not carrying.
Well.
The necklace has to look nice.
You wear kameya on a necklace on Shabbos? No.
A kameya, perhaps you could, because that's to protect you. But I think to have, let's say,
I'm saying a kameya from a modern day.
if you are in a
money-making.
yeshiva and they don't have enough cutlery to go around, so you have your precious spoon, and you have it, hanging on a chain around your neck, and every time you come to lunch or supper, you have your spoon with you. Would you be allowed to walk with that spoon on Shabbos? And the answer is no. Yeah.
It's very, very important to you.
Yes.
What about the
Yes.
husband? Like,
But on the other hand, it's not pikuach nefesh to walk in the street. If a person has this condition, perhaps they should stay stuck at home. It's all right. So, in one way around it would be perhaps to make this identity tag a bit more expensive, make it gold plated or silver plated, and make it into some kind of piece of jewelry. That would solve the problem. But otherwise, you have your issue because you're carrying information, basically. Yeah. We can talk about, digressing for a moment, but also in German-occupied areas of Europe, you didn't have to wear a yellow badge. You ever seen these pictures of these Magen David with Jude, these yellow badges? So were they allowed to walk in the streets wearing those on Shabbos? So the poskim talk. It wasn't the first time; it was earlier generations also. So they're talking about it. But that's the distinction here. Really, a badge which is to enhance your person is allowed to be worn. A badge which is merely just identity is a problem because you're just carrying information. Let's move on.
What about like old people carry buttons? So if anything happens, they press it and then they.
You mean as an alert?
Yes.
That would certainly be a problem. Because they're just carrying a piece of equipment with them.
Also, like it definitely works with electricity. So.
Yeah, listen. If they need it, then that electricity problem is not our biggest challenge. Yeah. If they press it on Shabbos, it's probably going to be a pikuach nefesh situation. That would be justified. Don't know. I'm going to have to stop here because we're almost 5:45. But I just want to say I had a Shiloh, someone in Europe, not in England, a high-profile person, and he had been a couple of times. His windows had been smashed by people sympathizing with the Palestinians, and he's a person sometimes is on TV in that country, and so he's a high-profile person, and the police gave him a kind of like not a walkie-talkie, but like a thing that wherever he goes, they know where he is.
Like a tracker.
A tracker, of course, yeah. So he asked whether is there a way to wear it on Shabbos. So because again, to wear it, is of course you can say it's because Nefesh has to wear it, but it's not because Nefesh to go in the street. Stay home. So the heter which I said in these circumstances is to wear it kilachayad. So I don't know how you normally wear trackers, but I told him, let's say you wear socks and you stick this tracker in your sock. So that's not the normal way of wearing the tracker. So because of the circumstances, I felt that it would be legitimate to have him to wear it in a not normal way. But yeah, all right. We're going to have to stop here and I'll see you, Bez.